This episode of the JustJohn podcast is brought to you by nobody. What up, homies? Coming to you pre-recorded from my newly completed podcast studio. And by studio, I mean the spare bedroom with a computer desk at it. This is the JustJohn podcast, a weekly show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And I'm your host, John Medina. This week, I'm going to share some funny missed connections from Craigslist. The Force has restored some of my faith in humanity, and I'm going to have my first ever guest on the show, and then I'm going to end with an app review. So, I was scrolling through Reddit one day, and I fell through a rabbit hole, which is, it's kind of embarrassing, but I guess everybody does it at some point in time, so whatever. But I wanted to share some of the things that I found. And so what I ended up looking at were a bunch of funny missed connections from Craigslist. So if you don't know, you can go to Craigslist and go to the missed connections section and say, oh, hey, I saw you here, but I didn't talk to you or whatever. But if you see this, email me. And so I don't know that it ever actually works, but whatever. So the first one that I saw, and I'm just going to read these because I'm not going to, I can't explain it any better than they do because that's the whole point of these being shared on the internet, right? You were the tall brunette with the near perfect body that farted in the bread section last night. I was the tall guy next to you that looked over and asked, was that you? You quickly replied, no, it wasn't me. You almost seemed insulted I would ask. As the stink grew, you continued to deny your flatulence, but it was evident. I tried to get rid of the stench by waving 2 loaves of ciabatta bread. You proceeded to storm off in an angry manner. You are beautiful, and even if you are a liar and fart like a Clydesdale, I'd love to meet up. If that's not love at first sight, I don't know what is. The next one is... Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. These are all really about, farts and poop. So the next one is, I was sitting there eating a burrito. You looked up at me and our eyes met. It was a magical moment. Unfortunately, I tried to fart silently and accidentally had runny diarrhea all over the place. I wanted to talk to you, but was too embarrassed. Plus, I had to go to the bathroom and clean up. Email me and tell me what you were eating so I know it's you. Isn't that just kind of what Taco Bell does to you, right? It just makes you fart all over the place and poop everywhere. I don't know. I don't really eat Taco Bell. I don't like it that much. So I don't know what it does to the digestive tract, but I feel like nothing good can ever truly come from Taco Bell. This last one is my personal favorite. We met on Craigslist, so I'm hoping this post finds you. I know that it could quite possibly be the most humiliating first date that you have ever been on, but I'm willing to look past that. I thought we had chemistry sitting at Applebee's sharing that basket of Cajun tots while drinking the Amstel Light. I really felt like there was a connection there. I found you to be intelligent and witty and looked forward to further conversation with you. At some point in life, everyone has gambled on a fart and lost. It just happened to be on a first date in the passenger seat of my car. Please don't feel bad. The package I sent you with Pepto the next day and the note that said, first dates are always a crapshoot, call me, was meant to be funny, not offensive. I have gambled on a fart and lost on multiple occasions. The first time I did it was very memorable. It happened when I was 5 and sitting on my uncle's lap. I'm lactose intolerant but love cheese. I probably win 95% of the time, but I don't think anyone wins 100% of the time. That's why they call it gambling. I'm the last person to judge you for crapping your pants. In fact, I'm impressed by your boldness. The timing, on the other hand, could have been a tad bit better, like when you're not sitting on a heated leather seat. What I'm trying to say is that If you want to go out again, I would be more than happy to take you someplace where we can get a meal that is high in fiber and less taxing on the digestive tract. I await your call. Tad. P.S. If you shat yourself on purpose to end the evening early, touche. I almost wonder how real that is, or if they just put it on there to play a joke, but either way, it's hilarious, and I honestly could see that happening in like one of those really like late night comedy like movies or raunchy kind of comedy movies like Mike and Mary Make a Porno. They did something with poop on that, or maybe like a Netflix original comedy series or something. I just think that I mean, it's just ridiculous. I've never had that experience, thankfully, at least not on a date, and I don't plan on that ever happening to me, but the lesson learned from that is don't gamble on a fart on a first date in a car that has heated leather seats after you ate Cajun tots. So, let's see, what day was it? It would have been like 2 Thursdays ago, I believe. And there was this guy, his name was Daniel Fleetwood, and he was like one of the biggest Star Wars fans. He had been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer and given 2 months to live back in July. Well, it's late October when the story broke, and he was still alive. So he had already beat his 2 months expectant, and his dying wish was to see Star Wars The Force Awakens, but it doesn't come out till December 17th, and that's 5 months. He was only given 2 to live. And so this big movement started on Twitter, #ForceForDaniel, and I was following this story really closely because I love Star Wars, and I really wanted him to be able to see it. And so pretty much about a week after the whole thing broke, Disney and J.J. Abrams and whoever was involved let him see the movie early, private screening, before even really the press have seen the movie, right? So he was, besides people that worked on or really close with the movie, he was the first person to see this movie. And like 3 days later, he passed away. But they granted his wish. And that's just amazing, because we really, as most humans, we want to help our fellow man, right? Or woman. I mean, man as in mankind, not actually just men, just so you know. But we want to help other people, right? We want to do what we can to make their life better in some way. And a lot of people kind of are like, you make movies, whatever. But movies affect people in many different ways. They inspire them. They give them hope. They give them ideas to create, to build, to do whatever. And Star Wars is something that really speaks to a lot of people in a lot of different ways. It's the classic good versus evil, right? And this man grew up loving Star Wars, and and J.J. Abrams and Disney and whatever were able to grant this man his last wish, his last mortal wish, by letting him see a movie that's been a part of his entire life. And I really just think that's amazing. When you see all the negativity that goes on in the world and all the bad and the people trying to hurt each other and ruin each other and do whatever, and sometimes you kind of get numb to the fact that there's a lot of bad in the world, but this shows us that there's a lot of good in the world too, and it really just restored some of my faith in humanity, just to see that something that has really been so secretive. Like, we don't know different things about the movie. And they took a chance and let a man who really just was a fan and wanted to see the movie, they let him see it, even though he could have recorded it and leaked the whole thing. He didn't, but the fact that they didn't care, that they just let him watch it it really struck my heartstrings. So, I'm going to go ahead and start the interview now. And then after the interview, I will do an app review, and then we will wrap the show up. All right, so we've reached the interview segment of the show. This is the first interview that I've ever done, so we'll see how it works out, but we're going to figure it out either way. I'd like to welcome my longtime best friend and the homie, Mr. Mike King.
Hello to all the JustJohn podcast listeners. What up, though? It's your boy, Mike King. I'm glad to be here. First ever guest on the JustJohn podcast. I feel like I need an award or something.
I mean, we could get you a t-shirt or something, maybe.
This man's not going to give me no t-shirt. Don't let him lie to you. It's all right, though. I'm happy to be here, though. It's a long time coming. The podcast has been out here for a little bit. I've been appreciating and, of course, following your success. You know, given you are my best friend, I'm always going to show you love on that.
I appreciate it, man. How you been?
I mean, you know, I've been chilling, working, both at my actual job and on this music, of course. You know, the grind never stops.
Right. I agree. So basically what I want to do with this interview segment is, one, I'm a creator because I do the podcast and I do some trailer reviews and stuff on YouTube and things like that. And you're a creator because you're a graphic designer by day and a hip-hop artist by night. So I really just want to kind of sit down and talk about creative block, how you deal with it, how you get over it, and how you almost prevent it when you start to feel like you're going to get some creative block.
You know, and I'm glad that that's the subject because, you know, like you said, I am a graphic designer by day and a hip hop artist by night, you know. So a lot of times I deal with it on both ends. There's been plenty of days after working my 8 hours, my 9 to 5, and being kind of stuck in a rut. I'll come home and try and maybe do some music and still be stuck in a rut on that end as well. So it's something I deal with, you know, all the time pretty much. But you know, it comes with the territory.
Yeah, like it's almost like it does not matter what kind of content that you create or produce, you're gonna confront this at some point in time. Like it is going to happen to you. It's just a matter of when, where you're at in your career / life, and how hard it hits you. Like, is it just a little bit like almost like a scratch on your back, or is it like a brick wall that slams down in front of you?
Before we get too deep into the interview, I want to clarify for everybody listening out there. John is my best friend in the entire world. Been rocking with this cat for quite a while. And, you know, as branding myself, you know, I am a hip hop artist, you know, and my rap name would be Mike King. Quick explanation behind that since, you know, I'm already here. My middle name is actually Michael. So that's where the Mike comes from. And King, you know, I'm a Leo. Shout out to all the August and late July babies. But, so, you know, King of the Jungle, King, K-I-N-G, you know, I always kind of felt like I came from royalty. So that's where the name derives itself from. But for all intents and purposes, if you hear John refer to me as Aaron, that is my real name. I have no shame about that. But for branding purposes, you can call me Aaron, Mike King, whatever you want to call me, King. But, so just a FYI, so no one's confused on who you're talking to.
Did I say Aaron?
Not at all. But
okay.
I just wanted to let them all know before it came up. So that way they were like, who is he talking about? No, my real name is Aaron. Yeah.
I appreciate it because I almost thought, man, I said it and didn't even realize that I said it. But yeah. Okay. So we've got that established and now we can kind of get down. So as a creator, if somebody's having these creative block issues, what are some of the things that you personally do to fight it or get over it or push through it?
Well, you know, when it comes to, you know, what's crazy is that when it comes to design and music, I actually kind of use the same process. It's just you kind of do it differently because obviously, you know, creating, you know, graphic design type things is different from recording music. But you know, the biggest thing is that you only really get writer's block when you have inspiration issues. Like, when you lack motivation to do something, a lot of times I'll be working on a song and I'll just be like, man, I'm stuck on this. Like, I can't figure it out. So a lot of times what helps me on the music end is I listen to a lot of different genres of music. Like, I don't just listen to rap. I listen to rap. I listen to pop. I listen to indie music. I listen to R&B. I listen to, techno. Sometimes I even throw on the dubstep or, EDM, anything to kind of give me ideas on how to do it differently. And with design, it's the same way. I'll go and like, if I'm making a flyer for work or something, I'll go and I'll Google flyers. Like, if I'm making a safety flyer, I'll Google safety flyers. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of get some inspiration so I'm not just sitting here stuck.
Right, right. You got to kind of find your muse, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And, like, on the podcast side of it, like, I find that a lot. Like, I'll just kind of feel like, what am I going to talk about? Like, what am I going to say? And, from the time that I kind of tried to start first doing some podcasts, between then and the time that I started the JustJohn podcast, that was really just a full block of creative block. Like, I could not figure out how I wanted to set everything up. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to say, what I wanted to do, what I wanted the show to be. And a lot of the things that helped me was exactly like you said. I just listened to podcasts. I listened to comedy podcasts. I listened to tech podcasts, movie podcasts, gaming podcasts, podcasts with 4 or 5 people, 2 people, 1 person by himself, people that were solo but had different guests every week, all kinds of different stuff. So I definitely agree that, kind of reaching out and not copying somebody necessarily, but just finding some inspiration in someone else's passion can really help.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing, is that it's never, the thing about life is that, especially in music, a lot of stuff is just taken and recycled and maybe mass produced a different way, as far as like using older songs for samples. I've heard people use older songs for a sample that actually sampled another song older than that before, just because, not necessarily because they didn't do their research, but, they use samples from other things. It's just because that's the way, the world works. It's getting to the point now where there's really nothing that hasn't already been done. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're even almost kind of seeing that, like, in movies and stuff. Like, most of the movies that are coming out have been coming out for a while and are coming out in the near future, and even kind of within the next 5 years, are all either reboots of old movies or continuations of old movies, or they're relying on some other type of intellectual property, like a comic book or a novel or something like that. They're not all original, have not been done in any way, shape, or form. We don't see a lot of that anymore.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing about, the way the world works, is because of the fact that, when it, like, if you look at a movie, like a romance movie, like a rom-com or a romantic comedy, a rom-com, and you kind of, you look at the overall basic layout of it, it's pretty similar. Like, all of them pretty much follow the same similarities. You know what I'm saying? You have a main character who is either a male or female who, goes through some type of whatever, and then they have to usually get somebody back, and then, the end, it all works out and it's all happy. You know what I'm saying? It's just a lot of times the approach to it is different. For instance, I watched the movie Trainwreck a couple months ago when it was in theaters, and it was my first time seeing anything by Amy Schumer, and it was just like, I was like, this follows kind of the traditional romantic comedy angle, but she approached it in such a way that had never been done, because it was so modern and almost kind of truthful, and, it made it really funny. And so, but essentially the template behind it was the same as every other romantic comedy.
Right, and it's cool, use the template like what she did. She saw these romantic comedies and she was like, I like the whole, crescendo into the, the subplots. I like all that, but I don't like how they did the story. And so she got creative and she made her own take on it. And now somebody can watch Trainwreck and say, man, that was a great formula. I like how she did everything. And that could inspire someone else or help someone else get over that block that they're kind of having and create something great.
Yeah, most definitely. But that's always my advice to people, is that if you're in some type of creative block, whatever your hobby or whatever your profession, tends to be, just, look at what other people have done. A lot of painters and stuff like that and other musicians find a lot of inspiration in seeing the passion through other people. Like if you're an artist and you're stuck on something, go to a museum or something, go see how somebody else did it and see how their approach was. And, it'll make you think of ways that you can improve yours.
Exactly. And to speak on that too, and this is something that I found personally, like when you have a passion for something, whether it's your job, like graphic design, for example. Yes, that's your day job, but you also had a passion for it. That's why you picked it to be your profession, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
And so, like, I love podcasting. I don't care if I never make it big, I never make money off of it. I really don't care. I just enjoy doing it. But the thing is, like, you want to put your all into it. You want to put everything you can into it, and then it starts to weigh on you. Like, you just feel like you have so much pressure, like that it has to be perfect and that it has to be great. And then you start to feel like that block come, like you're like, this isn't good enough, so I'm just gonna not necessarily give up, but just put it on the back burner. And then it sits on the back burner and it sits on the back burner. So the best thing that I find to do is to just sit down, do it, and have a good time. Find that fun part of it again, that part that you almost lost when you started stressing about it and worrying about it so much. Just sit down and have a good time, almost like the good old days, just enjoy it, relax, and do what you love. And if it doesn't come out perfect, that's all right. But you're going to probably find that when you reignite that love for it, you find all that creativity and it comes back to you, just because you got in touch with your roots, essentially. It almost takes it from being a job or a requirement and turns it back into a hobby, a passion that you love.
And I mean, that's the biggest thing about it, because, the way I look at it is that it truly is all about reigniting that flame inside you. And like, when it comes to music, I want to say I've made some of the best music that I've ever made, just because I finally said, you know what? Let me quit trying to think about what people want to hear, and let me just do the music that I want to do. Let me, write about the ideas that I have in my head, the things that I go through. And, I think, just the truth in that, and just the honesty and just the fun in it, people will feel that, whether it be, graphic design, or whether it be music, or whether it be podcasting, or whether it be anything in this world that you want to do, you just have to always make sure that you put yourself in it. I read it recently about an interview that Adele did, because Adele, just dropped a new single, and
breaking all them records.
Oh, of course, they love Adele out here. But she said that she came with a single to the label about a year ago, and that and she was like, yeah, here it is, it's done, whatever. And they was like, you could do better than that. And she knew she could do better than that. But the thing about it is that, it didn't have the Adele sound. It didn't have that feeling, that she had become famous and broke all the records with. So, she took her time off. She went through her life, and, she is now back out here making great music for people. So, you just had to take time. I mean, personally, if I was to show people like my archive of music that I have that's unreleased right now, it would probably amaze you that I only have so many songs out. And it's just because, I've held a song for months. Like, I did a song, Killer Coast State of Mind. I know you remember that one. That I held that. I released it in, I believe, April was when I released it. And I held it from November. So I held that song for probably about 6 months before I finally put it out. It was just because I listened to it and I felt as though it wasn't necessarily my best work, but it was a truthful thing, because it came from a place of me just honestly being myself on the track, and I felt like it wouldn't connect as well as it did. But when I put it out, I got great reception on it, and people really liked it. So, I was happy that I put it out, and kind of upset with myself that I held it for as long as I did.
Yeah, and that's another thing, and I think that's part of a lot of people's creative block, and definitely was part of my trouble, was running into the fact that, like, okay, if this isn't perfect, somebody's going to hate it. But then I kind of realized, you know what? It doesn't matter if it is the most amazing thing to ever grace this planet. Someone's not going to like it. You can't please everybody, and you've just got to accept that fact. But do what you love, give it your best shot, and let the haters hate, you know? I mean, like Taylor Swift said, it's a joke, Taylor, do not sue me, but haters gonna hate, right? So, I mean, you just gotta accept that there is gonna be someone out there that doesn't like the content that you create. That doesn't mean that they don't like you. That doesn't mean that you're bad at what you did. It just means that your style is not their style. And you know what all that means is? They don't have to listen to your song, or they don't have to listen to your podcast, or they don't have to buy the t-shirt that you designed, or the whatever, or if they need invitations, they're not going to come to you as the graphic designer and say, will you please make me some invitations in exchange for currency? I mean, it's just, you've got to accept the fact that you're not going to please everybody, and that's okay. But as long as you're happy, and if somebody out there does happen to get some, you know, inspiration or enjoy your content, then you've succeeded. Because really, everybody wants to help somebody and make the world great. And we do that in whatever way that we can, whether it's you know, doing this or that. But you've got to make yourself happy too. And so if creating that content makes you happy, but it doesn't make someone else happy, they don't have to listen to it. It's, you know, it's for you, the creator. And if other people love it and want to give you dump trucks of money for it, who's going to stop them?
I mean, pretty much, like, I mean, you know, any labels that offer me any type of money to sign, I would definitely sign. But at the end of the day, you know, I just really want to make dope music that people can appreciate. You know, I just want people to hear, you know, because I feel like with music, you know, I feel like nowadays a lot of people are taking it for granted, and a lot of people are just doing it as a means to, you know, get money and try and make it to a different level. And there's nothing wrong with that. But on a certain level, you know, I don't make music to make money. I make music because I enjoy making music, and because music is just part of who I am. And I just want to make dope music that touches people. Maybe not necessarily in like a make you cry type of way, but I just want music to make music that people can relate to where I can give my own perspective on the way I see things, and just, you know, tell a story that, you know, is my own story. You know, no one can tell your story for you better than you can. So I figure, you know, I'm going to take this mic, I'm going to get these beats together, and I'm going to spit over these beats, and we're going to make it work.
Exactly. And that's really what it's all about. So I guess to come full circle with the conversation, kind of accumulative of what we've been saying is that when you run into creative block, just find some inspiration, get back to your roots and find your love of it, and remember that you're not doing it to make anybody else happy. You're doing it to make yourself happy, and you're doing it for yourself. Before I go, I do want to give Aaron, aka Mike King, a chance to go ahead and kind of tell you where you can find his music, and if you want to follow him on different social media or whatever he wants to put out there. I'm going to go ahead and let him do that and close out, and then we'll continue the rest of the show after that.
Yeah, you know, you can definitely follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Revo_AW. That's at capital R, lowercase e, capital V, lowercase zero, or lowercase O, not zero, and then underscore capital AW.
Yeah, not to interrupt, but I will make sure to put that in the show notes and links and stuff so that you guys don't have to remember that. You can just go to the show and click on it. Should take you straight to them.
And then also you can follow me on Instagram @finesse_Williams. Of course, finesse, FINESSE, and then _WILLIAMS. And also you can check out my music on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com /Mike_King. You can check me out there, you know, go ahead and give the music a listen. I make different type of music. Hopefully I will have my mixtape dropping next month in December. And I'm actually, you know what, John, I'm gonna do you this. I'm gonna tell the name of it on the podcast.
What can I say, man? It's an honor. It's an honor.
I'm giving you your first exclusive. The tape hopefully coming out in December. Of course, I'll, put the date out on Instagram and Twitter, of course, but, the tape is going to be called actually The Tape. The TAPE being an acronym, standing for Tales About Passing Events. It's a name that it kind of just came to me. It's just because people would ask me when my mixtape was coming, and I always would tell them, well, the tape's on the way. And, eventually I was kind of like, I should probably come up with a name for it. And I was like, I'm just going to call it The Tape. And then the acronym kind of just came to me as I was working on the song one day. So that's what we're going to go with.
All right. Sounds good, man. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you for being on, and thank you for being my first guest, man.
Thank you for having me. I really had a great time. Of course, anytime you need me. And then I also want to thank, all the Just John podcast listeners out there for, showing my boy support and coming back week after week and hearing him.
All right, man. Catch you next time.
Most definitely.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
So I think that creative block is something that a lot of people have experienced, and if you've ever experienced it personally and you found a way to break through it and would like to share that with me, and I'll read it on the show, of course, and share it with everybody else, please shoot me an email at justjohnpodcast@gmail.com and put creative block in the subject line so that I know. All right, so time for my app review. So the app that I'm going to review this week is called YouTube Studio, and this is more tied towards content creators. You download it and it syncs with your YouTube account, and you can see your analytics from your mobile device because, sometimes you want to check up on something, read comments, answer to comments, or, see what kind of views you're getting or stats and stuff, and you're not at a computer where you can sit down and look through all that information. And YouTube realized this, so they made an app that will let you see all of these different things. And I think it's really useful, especially if you're a content creator. If you're not a content creator, I'm not sure that you really necessarily need the app. But for all my fellow creators out there, take a look at it and play around with it. I like it a lot. It's not as full as the analytics are on the desktop version, of course, because it's mobile, but it's still got some really good information on there. If you enjoyed the show, please show me some love by liking, thumbs up, subscribe, share, rating, reviewing, retweeting, or whatever it is that's used to symbolize the love of the show on the platform you're using to view it. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyM_Revo. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/JustJohnPodcast. You can listen to the show at soundcloud.com/JustJohn-podcast, youtube.com/JFMedina2010. You can also search for it on iTunes and Stitcher. And you can find the website at justjohnpodcast.wordpress.com. Of course, any questions, comments, concerns, you can email me at justjohnpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, without you, I'm just some dude talking to himself on the internet. Until next time, peace out, fam.